Strangely, in certain countries, they know. It's not even a question. Before you get a contract, you are told upfront that you've got to do 1, 2, 3. And the same conversation and the issues that they raise here, it doesn't arise. And they are prepared to accept. So we know in Asia, and that's why they are, talk about offset agreements that are set out. We know. But in Africa, unfortunately, the very same companies, they behave differently. Right? So we've got to be honest about those conversations. The fourth point is that, as Africans, and I'm talking about the region, we also need to appreciate the lack of coherence and alignment in the way that we see the future. And because when you talk about regional integration, having an innovation-led industrialization, if you don't have a coherent vision as SADC and a clear path towards it, then the challenge of realizing, of addressing the questions that you are raising, you can take a little bit. So we've got to be clear as SADC about how we want to move forward. We need to be clear as well and accept that we don't have very strong science, technology, innovation, even higher education systems in the region where you are having students, engineers, technologists, innovators, and a range of other capabilities that you need. You've got to acknowledge it, but you must then agree on what kind of capacity building mechanisms that need to be put in place to ensure that in the future. But at the heart of it, that's my last point, is that the notion of sovereignty, developing our own indigenous technologies as the region to safeguard our national sovereignty. That question is more urgent now than before because of what we have seen globally. The geopolitical dynamics are actually teaching us that perhaps a few years before you'll have a different discussion, even on this notion of imported technologies versus export. The conversation is now different than what you would be discussing 3 years ago because of the geopolitics. So we've got to elevate the notion of sovereignty and ask questions as a region, what kind of technologies as a region we should have that will safeguard our own sovereignty, but which you can also use to leverage. In the plenary discussion yesterday on critical minerals and the range, we've got this minerals. How do we use them to deal with issues that we are raising, even procurement approaches that we need to be bold. So we need leadership, we need to be bold, we need to work together coherently. Not working as if, having private sector pulling in the other way, government, the higher education moving in a different direction, but also appreciate that SADC, you can't go as a single country. I think someone made it. You can't go and negotiate with EU as South Africa or Lesotho, but on your own, you're not going to achieve anything.